up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What's good, people? What is up? What is up? Hello, sir.
Hi.
How are you?
It has been a week and we're not even halfway done yet. How are you?
I missed you, sir. We did not have our, usual live last week. I was out of town for work. You were out of town for work. And yeah, all of those things. But nevertheless, we are here today because we have 7 days remaining, exactly 1 week until election day, sir. Are you excited?
I'm so excited to get this over with. The anxiety is nerve wracking at this point.
It is. I will say it is very, very, very. I mean, it. I'm trying to think of the right adjective to describe the angst that
Hmm.
that you kind of have right now.
I just feel anyone that did their research, they knew who they were voting for months ago. Let's just be real. The fact that people this close are still undecided, I don't think that we live in the same reality.
The people are already coming in. They already coming in. Look at the people. They already coming in. Ready. They already coming in. Look at them. Hey, everybody, as y'all come in.
Hey to everyone in the chat.
But yeah, there's a lot of angst. There's a lot of stuff going on. Um, I don't know, Kamz. I don't know. This stuff gets kind of scary, though. It's kind of scary at times.
I just
However,
don't. It's like you did your part in the group project, but you don't know about nobody else. That's what it feels like
mhm.
on an even greater scale, because there's more than just a grade, that's at risk. We're talking about democracy here, and that's not, hyperbole. Like, very fascist statements have been made in the past few weeks, and I don't feel the media is sounding the alarm as they should.
I think the media is sounding alarms on so many things that they shouldn't, and they often get a lot of things wrong. And yeah, yeah.
My trust in like news media, I think, has never been lower.
It, jeez. And we'll get to it. We got a lot of things to talk about in today's episode. This is episode 12 of Red, Blue, and Black. And in today's episode, we are slated to cover all of the can I just say the shit?
Mm.
It's the RBD, racism, bigotry, and discrimination. All of that. Ciao. And we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss voting and the ballots, and this is happening. It's not a drill. These people are not going to just let you win. We'll discuss everything that's going on with the ballots right now, and then we will look at journalism and some of these print media and their what they got going on with their owners. Do I need to do an update, sir, of um, of um, of the early voting count?
I've been following it, but I don't. I mean, would it be
Just
helpful to chat?
just as an update for the people. When we checked last week, we were at like 30 some odd million. Now we're up to 50 million, 50,468,017 mail in and early in person ballots have been cast as of now. I just want to put this up so I can share. I'm just going to share this because I like for y'all to see a couple things. Hold on. I want y'all to see. We've been talking recently um about the great state of North Carolina. Let me see if I can make this big. Hold on.
It's
There
not
we go.
that.
North Carolina. Okay. Let me go back to this is how many votes have been cast nationally for mail in and early in person voting. That's 50,468,017 votes. So, and this is the breakdown by party registration, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been following every time I look at this in North Carolina. When you talk about the most, straight down, up in the air, like look at North Carolina. Look at the percentages of early. I don't know how you slice the pie anymore. Down the middle. Like you have 33% Democrat, 34% Republican, and 33% non-party affiliation.
And that's the group that's going to be crucial in these battleground states, the ones that aren't registered to either of the major parties.
I mean, and I like to look at North Carolina because North Carolina as well as a state like Virginia, those two states generally don't like to align to a specific party. They like divided governments. So I kind of like to look at how they're trending to get a gauge or a temperament for a lot of, people around the place. This is Virginia right now. 1.668 million votes cast, and 52% of that registered Dem, 38 registered Republican. Let me look at
Let's look at the great state of Florida.
the great state of Florida. Here's what we have: 34% Democrat, 45% Republican,
Hmm.
21% no party affiliation. Now, the trend all over the country is uh, Republicans are coming out in numbers to vote early. This was not the trend for the last several election cycles. The early voting was mainly Democrat. You knew that the lion's share of the early voting was going to be Democratic votes. The Republicans have said, yeah, not so fast. But we've already had 5 million votes cast in Florida. 5.14 million votes have been cast. Um, Pennsylvania, the battleground state that everybody's vying for. Here's what we have so far in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, I think they'll stick to how they've been doing, where you'll see the lion's share of the Republican votes coming on election day, um, as has been the trend in recent history. We'll look at some other battleground states. Michigan has almost 2 million votes. They have 48% registered Dem, 48% registered Republican, 11% non-party affiliation. And let me also say again in preface, remember these are party affiliations, meaning how they are aligned according to their voter registration. That doesn't mean that if you are a registered Democrat, you had to vote Democrat. That doesn't mean that if you're a registered Republican, you had to vote Republican. That just means that's how you are registered according to your voter registration. Anybody else we want to check? See what Georgia got going on. Georgia has 45% registered Dems, 49% registered Republican, and 6% non party affiliation.
When we look at Nevada,
A state
example,
like Georgia, those numbers don't bode well because there was a very small percentage of non party affiliations. And and you would expect that early voting would be a larger Democratic turnout, especially for those Democratic centers. Nevada, you have 711,533 mail-in and in-person votes cast, with 35% of that being registered Dems, 40% being registered Republicans, and 25% non-party affiliation. That's interesting.
I'm watching that race over
In
there.
the Blue Wall, Michigan, um, you have 48% registered. There almost 2 million in Michigan. I think we just looked at this, right?
Did what
Okay.
about Maryland? That's one I think we were trying to delve a little bit more into that what that Senate race is looking like.
Yeah. But that's why I say this only tells us how they're registered because there were a lot of Dems that voted Republican for Larry Hogan, in Maryland,
Yeah,
which scares me.
from
Um,
what I've seen, and everything politics is local, right? But I know at least here, people are very quiet, but they're registered Republican and they're not voting that way at the top of the ticket.
well, let's see what Minnesota has going on.
It's a,
Minnesota.
I mean,
And you in a state like Minnesota and Wisconsin, you have to take into account that huge number for non-party affiliation. Like I told you, anytime you see 15% or above non-party affiliation, that's a large number. That's a large number of non-party affiliation, meaning that could sway. any vote anyway. Wisconsin, they have cast almost 1 million early in-person voting, 36% registered Dems, 30 I'm sorry, 23% registered Republicans, and 41% non-party affiliation. Like those are astronomical numbers. And so you have to be really in tune with what voters in those respective local areas want, if you're going to move the needle with them at all. At all. So this is interesting. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. But that's your update on your on your mail in and early in person voting votes that have been cast. 50,468,017 that have been cast, and requested 60,959,027. Any other commentary on that, sir?
Look at the states where they don't allow early voting.
Well,
Look at what they have in common.
Alabama,
Mhm.
Mississippi, Kentucky, Missouri. Mess.
I just thought that was an interesting connection there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why am I big now? All right. So that is your update. Let's see what y'all said in the chat. Hey, Danny. What's going on? Now that's interesting. And we're going to talk about this right now, Ronald. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Hey, Xavier. So, yeah, we got some stuff to talk about. So, sir, first thing um on the ticket to talk about today is there's a lot of people. I want to sing that old song. I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors. That's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True color. But these true colors are not beautiful.
No, and they look like defecate.
They do. They do. So, we got a lot going on. We have a lot of racism, bigotry, and discrimination going on. We have the Madison Square Garden rally um, that Trump had
Hanlon?
on Sunday,
Mm.
where they said that Puerto Rico was an island of garbage. They were talking about black people. Instead of carving pumpkins, they were carving watermelons. They talked about Jewish people. You name it, they talked about it. You had Dr. Phil on there, ironically talking about this country wasn't built on DEI. Like what?
I mean, they did have DEI even back then. All the jobs that the colonizers didn't want to do, they got POCs to do it.
Let's be clear. We only know who Dr. Phil is because of a black woman.
Say that.
That's the only reason we
And
know
I'm
who he
mad
is.
she gave him that platform.
Right. I'm sure she is too. So we had that. Republicans are falling out about that. We had the CNN. Uh, 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 do I need to play any of these clips? I do, or should I play any of these clips?
Like Mehdi Hassan, and then Ryan.
So you're saying I need to play? Okay, give me a second. Let me set them up. Did I put them in? I know I put the Mehdi Hassan in there.
Yeah, Mehdi Hassan's in there. Like I remember watching that and being like,
Okay.
because at first like clearly I didn't hear that correctly, but then when I went on Twitter and I saw them, Yeah.
All right.
Now, look,
So
Xavier, I like Fix My Life. That's entertainment for all the wrong reasons. But I can't co-sign that Dr. Phil stuff. Trash.
what did I just do? Okay. All right. Let's do that. Ouch. All right. Let me see if I can make this smaller so I can get it all on the screen.
You making something smaller?
Go to
Interesting.
hell. Go directly to hell. I'm not doing this with you, sir. All right. So here it is. Um, there it is. Okay. So let's make it go over there. All right. For those people who did not see it, let me turn the volume on. Here it is.
Stop doing.
You're
Stop
called an
saying-
you've been called an
Undermine.
anti-Semite
Stop
more
saying
than anyone else
things.
at this table.
Yeah.
And people would
By
sit there
you.
and no, by me. I never called you an anti-Semite. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying I don't.
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians. So I'm used to it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
well, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is
Did
that
you just say I should
wow.
die?
You should not.
No, I
Did
said,
you just say
no,
I should be killed?
No, I did not
Live
say
on
that. I said,
CNN?
no, I did not say that.
Hold on.
Oh, did your guest just say I
No,
should
I
be
didn't.
killed?
Let me- hold
on
on.
live
Just say.
TV?
I said I hope
Guys,
you don't.
let me just stop.
You said you hope my beeper
beeper
doesn't go off.
Because you sound a big
that
supporter
right now.
Of the Palestinians.
Guys,
Hamas.
Guys, let me
said
stop.
Palestinians.
Are you? A supporter
Am I
of
what?
Hamas?
No, of course I'm not.
Palestinians
saying
are
that.
not.
Then I
Are
apologize.
you a
Ryan.
Then I
racist,
apologize.
violent person
Then I
inciting
apologize.
violence against me?
Ryan, That's disgusting. that is completely.
Then I apologize.
That
Good
is
job, CNN.
completely
Let's have first
out
block
of
say the
pocket.
Muslim guy
You
should
know
be
that.
blown
Then I
up
apologize.
on
Then I
TV.
apologize.
Don't
Then I
say
apologize.
then I
Wow.
apologize. You literally. say
I
it.
thought he said
accused
Hamas.
him.
I apologize.
You didn't think I said
No.
Hamas.
Yes,
I
you
said I
did.
supported
Yes, I did.
Palestinian
Yes, I
rights.
did.
Why? Because when you hear
What's funny
Palestinian,
is
you hear
Rudy
Hamas.
Giuliani said this
No,
yesterday,
because-
so you're a great guest
Listen,
to be here
all
to
right,
defend
I
Rudy
told
Giuliani.
myself- Give me-
If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing.
Nonsense
one second.
today, and so at this point,
This is what we're in
I
now.
can't
This
do
is America in
Here's what I
2024.
will say.
Forget the
Here's what
racism.
that's right.
It's I should
That's
die.
right.
I didn't say that. You
You
should
said,
die.
what does beeper mean? Don't give me your
I
faint
did not say
ignorance.
you should
Guys,
die.
Why did you say
guys,
with my
give me-
beeper
give me
go
a-
off?
what did you mean?
What did you mean by the beeper?
So what
I
did
said-
you mean?
What did you mean by the beeper?
No,
No, you didn't. You said, I hope your beeper doesn't go off.
Ryan, stop talking.
At least have the guts to
I'm
support
so
your racist
sorry.
comment.
I'm
Hang on.
so sorry.
Let her bring it back.
This
Let her bring
is
it back.
this is
Hang on.
why. This is why yesterday's rally was disgusting.
Don't call us
and
Nazis, but I'm going to
outrageous.
threaten the brown guy as a
This is
terrorist
why.
and kill him.
Because I didn't ever say Donald Trump was Hitler. But do you know who stood on a stage yesterday and said, I want to come to the Nazi rally? I don't have to make up words and call you something. You're saying it for yourself. And what you just said
Kamala
right
Harris
here,
is a pimp
apologize,
handler.
but I will tell you, I don't accept that apology, and you didn't even
That's
say it to
fine.
me.
I didn't say it
that
to
was
you.
disgusting. But I can be offended when you don't even say it to
That's-
me. I'm not Puerto Rican, but I was offended by what he said
Okay.
yesterday. And I'm offended that the president isn't going to entertain president and potentially future president would allow it and go for 12 hours and not say, I don't care. Because you know what? When Kamala Harris put out statements about switching up opinions, it wasn't good enough for Republicans.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you said it.
Why don't you
'Cause I'm
take this back a little?
president and potentially future.
We're back here, and before we get started, I want to just address what happened in the last segment. And first, I want to apologize to Mehdi Hassan for what was said at this table. It was completely unacceptable. When we get this discussion started, you'll see that Ryan is not at the table. There is a line that was crossed there, and it's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to us at this network. We want discussion. We want people who disagree with each other to talk to each other. But when you cross the line of a complete lack of civility, that is not going to happen here on this show. It's a heated time. We're in the middle of a political season. We are 8 days from a presidential election. But we can have conversations about what is happening in this country without resorting to the lowest of the lowest kind of discourse. Want to address that, and I want to apologize to the viewers at home. Because we want to be able to hear each other, we want to be able to talk to each other, and we plan to do that in this next. We're back here, and before we get started, I want to just address what happened.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Abby and that lack of control. Name a more iconic duo.
Here's my thing. So I think most people saw the the comments at the Madison Square Garden rally. I don't know that we need to see that. The other thing that we saw is Kamala went on Shannon Sharp, and the comment section underneath the YouTube video was a dumpster fire. Like, it was 98%. I hate Kamala, and Kamala is the worst thing on earth. 2% support of Kamala, and I'm not even being hyperbolic there.
Yep.
It was really bad, really, really bad. So we got a whole lot going on in the waiting stages of this election. I'll let you start off, Cam, because the people are showing their true colors.
I have one statement to say to that. I've come to expect the worst in human nature, and it's been a more recent thing. I never really understood misanthropy, and then the more I became politically aware of how this man is just not a walking red flag and a deal breaker for people, um, then realized, yeah, yeah, this is who they've always been, though. I just think that Trump has normalized people saying the quiet parts out loud with the megaphone, with your full chest, and not walking anything back.
Let me let me start with Abby Phillip. Abby. That show that Abby Phillip has is not good. It's not. I'm just gonna call it out for what it is. It is not, because what you have on that show is people. She has people who she wants to argue, but we're in a very volatile time with regard to partisan politics and people's ideologies and where their political leanings are. It's very volatile right now, and she brings these people. We've seen clip after clip after clip after clip after clip on Abby Phillips' show, and she has no institutional control. So that's why he could go on there and feel like, okay, I'm good. This is a good place. Because when you look at all of the previous clips and people who she's had on there, they say off the wall stuff. They be way out of pocket, saying all types of stuff. There's been no shortage of things on there. So it was kind of disingenuous for me. For now, this is the red line in the sand for CNN and Abby Phillips, because y'all have had people on there doing and saying every goddamn thing. I think the premise of the show is not good. We're not in that climate where you can have that. We're just not.
This
We're
isn't
just
this isn't
not in that
crossfire. Like,
climate.
we're not in a climate where a crossfire is possible.
Right. Definitely not with them in the same room together.
I think they should probably potentially. I think I would get more value out of. You have the panelists. They're not live. You know who the panelists are. You know, week over week, and they're responding to the talking points of the other side.
And I see people saying that they don't believe necessarily that it's her, that that's the show that they gave her. And that may very well be true. That may very well be true. But at some point, when do you say, you got to go into the bosses and say, hey, nope, I can't do this. Nope, this is a bad idea. At some point, you're going to either have to stand your ground and say, I'm not doing this no more. This ain't for me. We can't keep doing this every week. Or you seem complicit. And even if you tell me, um, she says she's leaving after the election, you're still participating in this foolishness. Like, that show has been a dumpster fire. And I think Abby Phillip is a very good journalist, but this is not indicative of her as a journalist.
I think she's a great journalist. I've been following her since she was at Politico.
Mm-hmm.
So she's one of the best to me, especially considering how young she is. of this, this newer generation of journalists, where they're able to understand, print media, traditional media, but they're also able to really tap in and delve social media as well.
Listen, like I said, we are in the type of political climate where you can't have these people in the same room with each other, because it's just too volatile right now. And for the fact, I think the guy is just speaking the quiet parts out loud, because what he essentially said is, "Oh, you're Palestinian, you need to be killed," which is why he's saying, "I hope your beeper doesn't go off." You're wishing death on him,
You knew
just
he knew
like
exactly what that was, and
exactly.
it wasn't thinly veiled.
It wasn't at all.
It wasn't thinly veiled at
He
all.
said it with his whole chest. Now let's be clear: half of Congress feels the exact same way, if not more than half, because there's a whole lot of Dems that feel the same way. Just wipe them all off. Wipe them off the face of the earth. Complete occupation and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. Uh, eh, I mean,
I don't understand the mentality where you think you are superior to someone based on characteristics that are really only displayed phenotypically, really, that you're better than someone else. I never got.
well, that's white people and their mantle of white privilege and breastplate of white supremacy that they wear every day. You know what they do.
I don't know. Like I don't think some of what we're asking for with things like DEI is even bad. DEI doesn't mean that the least qualified person gets the job. It just means that we're going to a diverse set of places to get applicants from that we wouldn't maybe traditionally tap into. I don't understand how they think DEI is this great insult.
The thing about it is, and I see that comment. You said it exposed him. This gives him the wrong type of exposure that we want. Because while you're thinking, oh, people get to see him for being a bigot, now he's going to get bigger platforms. You mean to tell me he's not going to be a frequent contributor down to the Fox News and every other conservative outlet? Do you think he's now not going to be on the circuit of speakers making millions of dollars, going around spewing his expert level brand of fuckery all across the fruited plains? He's about to get a payday off the backs of CNN, Abby Phillip, and this show. Please be clear.
I, we reward bad behavior in America. That's
And the same way with that comedian who talked about, who basically insulted the entirety of, the Puerto Rican nation, as well as black people. And the fact that these Republicans and all of these people are trying to write it off so flippantly and say, "Oh, well, you all need to understand this is a comedian, and you all need to understand that comedians can make jokes." This is going to come out harsh, but I've never agreed with that, because when your jokes has to demean a whole group of individuals, you shouldn't be making those jokes. Just like Dave Chappelle, because I don't see how anything that young man did at Madison Square Garden is any different from Dave Chappelle and his stand-up comedy.
the
Any different at
concept
all.
of punching down is, I think, was a lot of the discourse around it, and people are still saying that even in response to the jokes that were said at that rally. And I just think that we've normalized this sort of overt racist rhetoric because it's directed at an outgroup. Always directed at the Palestinians. Like, no, it's like they assume no one cares about them. They're not that tapped into it.
Mm. Well, that's true. And so these people purposely go up there while y'all may be thinking, oh, this is bad pub for them. Oh, this is great pub for them. Because the MAGA nuts, the racists and bigots are going to pay these people hundreds of $1,000s for each time they open their mouths to speak at the next convention, at the next conference, at the next rally. Because they have name recognition now. They have brand awareness now. People know who they are. So, yeah, I don't know.
Peter Thiel is one of the, as far as the billionaires goes, he's one of the worst, in my opinion. They're all terrible, but he's a special brand of terrible.
Well, thank you, Ravin. I'm using a new platform besides StreamYard. Um, what was I about to say? What do you think about this Shannon Sharp situation? Kamala going on there. First of all, I don't even know why Kamala was even on there to begin with. I just don't think that's the right platform. But who am I? I'm not the political strategist.
We can delve right into it, right? I think her rationale for going is outreach to black men who she has been underperforming in contrast with previous uh, Democratic nominees for a multitude of reasons that we can get into, what have you. But let's just say I was not expecting, the bastions of moderating on Shannon Sharp's platform. Um, I've seen this man's work. He's an entertainer. He talks about sports. I don't really think he has the wherewithal to really do anything else. But he says he's not a journalist. He interviews people and he lets them speak. That's what he says. But I do think that there could have been maybe some protections in place from that brigading that did happen on the video. But again, this is Shannon Sharp. I'm not expecting much of anything.
Listen, and I said to Cam backstage, it does. First of all, this is not going to help her in terms of getting a broader reach with black men. That's one. Secondly, I keep screaming from the rooftops, Kamala Harris is going to win black men in the upper 80th percentile. Okay? I can say that quite assuredly. She will have probably between 85 to 90% of the black male vote. I'm not even worried about that. Black men will be the second largest, well, not largest, but the in terms of percentage wise, the second highest percentage of voters behind black women for her. So all of this, I'm not saying ignore black men. Please be clear. I am not saying that at all because I am absolutely astounded and relieved that she did put out something that she said that was a plan for black men. But for all of this, okay, we need to do all of these things to uh, reach black male voters. If I'm trying to win, where's the energy to win the white women vote? Because these are the people who we need to be winning.
But I
White
think that a
women.
lot of people are missing the fact that she went on Call Her Daddy. Like that's a very, to me, Alex Cooper and that sort of audience is Caucasian.
And that's what I'm saying. She needs to be doing, those are the shows she needs to be going on.
And she talked
Those
about
are the
reproductive
people she
health.
needs to be kowtowing to.
Yeah, that was, she took a lot of blowback for that. That Call Her Daddy inter- podcast interview. Sure. But I mean, she's been doing non-traditional media. But if you're not chronically online like myself, you might have not have been the intended target that she's trying to reach.
And I think the people that she's trying to reach, like you said, just aren't watching a lot of these platforms. A lot of the black men that they may believe that she's trying to reach, a lot of them ain't watching Shannon Sharp like that. They're not.
The media market is not something that I can really comment on from a political perspective because I really do feel like the game has changed significantly since I've last really been on a campaign from like start to finish.
Like, I feel like this. The same number of black people that didn't vote for Kamala, that didn't vote for Joe Biden or didn't vote for Obama, will be the same number of black people that didn't vote, that won't vote for Kamala Harris. It is what it is. We don't vote as a monolith. I don't expect any group to vote. We vote as close to a monolith as any other voting block between black men and black women. So all of this, I think what the media is doing is they are uh, uh, sounding these alarms and being alarmist and having all of the attention placed on groups who, if Kamala Harris were to lose, won't be the reason why she lost.
Yeah, but you could tell that they're already sort of setting this narrative up.
They're setting it up. They're setting it up because they're going to find any way to explain away white women. All white women will be protected at all costs. Please believe that. They will not allow white women to bear the brunt of this country being sent into a death spiral. They're not going to let white women bear the brunt of that. But if that woman loses and we get another 4 years of Trump and this democracy is sent into a death spiral, I promise you, the blame will fall at the feet of those women descendant from the Caucasus Mountains.
But this is interesting though too though. Like when we say they're trying to do this setup, right? It reminds me of Proposition 8 that happened out in California back in '08 that was going to remove the, rights of same-sex couples. And Prop 8 passed. And they were so focused on black people who are such a small portion of the population versus really delving into where a majority of those yes votes came from. They're always going to make some POC the scapegoat. And it's really, you need to point the fingers at white women. It's that easy. We're not enough. We're not enough to move the needle
Right.
nationally. It's not
Exactly.
and we're only in so much of the country as well. How we're even distributed. So it's like, what are you really expecting from black people in the South, where it's going to be reliably a red state? What do you want from us? What can we feasibly do in those areas? So it's just like, you need to focus on why some of these historic voting blocks have drifted away from the Democratic Party. But that's harder than just blaming black people. So
That is true. Speaking of voting, we have to talk about people already being disenfranchised with their voting. We have so many things going on, y'all, all over the country with regard to voting. We have, let me go down the line. Ballots were set on fire in Portland, Oregon, where police had to respond to a fire where they say a fire was started by an incendiary device inside a ballot drop box. We have to talk about hours after that in Vancouver, Washington. Hundreds of ballots were badly damaged when a ballot drop boxes fire suppression system failed to work. Now, with the system in Portland, Oregon, they say the fire suppressant inside the ballot box protected virtually all of the ballots. And they said that 3 ballots were damaged there. But the system failed in the ballot box in Vancouver, and literally hundreds of ballots were badly damaged when the boxes fired when it was the fire was set there. In addition to that, um, there was another one in Arizona where someone set fire to a United States Postal Service box. That was Saturday. No, that was last Thursday. I'm sorry. That was last week Thursday. And we talked about that on this platform there. So that happened, and the man turned himself in and said he wanted to get caught. But then, in addition to that, we found out today in my great state of Miami-Dade. Notice I didn't say Florida, but
Here we
where
go.
where my vote was cast, in Miami-Dade County, a elections worker had to be fired because they did not properly lock the truck that they used to transport ballots. A sealed bin and a sealed bag fell out of the back of the truck and were laid out in the middle of the highway. And thank God a good Samaritan went and picked them up and turned them into the police. And they said that the seal had not been broken or hadn't been tampered with. And so those votes that were in both the bin and the bag were still sealed, and those votes counted. But who's to say this hasn't happened before? And thank God it was this person that did it. We know in Miami-Dade County, last year's election cycle, there was a person that was a MAGA nut that signed up and successfully became a poll worker. When it was time to have those votes turned over, instead of having them transported to the supervisor of elections, he took and destroyed them and discarded thousands of votes from a voting precinct in a black area, which was largely Democratic. So these things are happening all over the country, Kamz. We have people who stand to have a lot of votes that uh, that people are trying to do anything and they can to sway this election however they think they can, deem necessary. Now, it should be noted in Oregon and Washington State, the only option is to vote by mail. They don't vote on election day, if I'm not mistaken. They vote exclusively, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody will check me on that. But if I'm not mistaken, I think they vote exclusively by mail in. I could be wrong.
I was military voting when I lived in Washington, so. But I do think that a lot of people are up in arms about this. Like, this is something new. This is not new. If you followed elections, it's always some ballot box that's been burning. Um, Investigations have shown a lot of people discuss these things on these whatever dark web chat rooms, and they think that this is just like a soft target. But there are fire suppression measures in place when they work, but a lot of these places are under video surveillance. And I think people need to realize that a lot of states take election security very seriously. Because no matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're someone who cares about their reputation as a Secretary of State, you're going to make sure that there's minimal irregularities.
Listen, I if y'all have not been listening to me on this platform as well as on this particular show, I have been screaming that these people are not going to go away quietly. They're not going to let you just think that you're just going to up and win. Even if you do win, they're not going to give it up. I mean, you're going to have to pry it out of their cold, dead hands. And they mean that. Like, they have mechanisms and things already in place. They have been preparing, they have been setting things up, they have been instructing their, acolytes and things like that to do whatever it takes in order to ensure they win. And that's by any means necessary. So if that means that they got to burn ballots, if that means that they have to remember last election cycle, we had people standing next to the drop boxes with assault rifles. We had that happening in this country. We're not talking about in some third world country. We're talking about in these yet to be United States of America, where we're supposed to be the bastions of democracy sitting high on the hill, and we cannot get fucking elections right. Here's what I want to say to you, Kamz. Think about what we as a nation and what our government says about so many other countries, their elections, and how nefarious elections are in some of these other countries, and how they can't trust the leadership in place because of the dubious, election practices, and they can't trust that the elections were fair and and all of that talking bullshit.
Oh,
How
like when
can we
Ken's
say
like when
that
a
looking at
dictator
what the fuck we
wins
got going on?
98% of the vote? You mean those farcical elections that they hold?
But I'm saying for all of us, all of our, you know, sitting and denigrating other countries and their elections, look at what the fuck we got going on.
I
I'm just
mean,
saying.
we haven't fared as bad as Mexico though, because they've been putting hits out on politicians that were, candidates. So we're not that bad. But I do think that the constant fear, uncertainty, and doubt that have been spread about these
I mean,
elections,
we did have a candidate that had assassination attempts on him twice.
allegedly.
I'm just saying.
Look, I feel like all black people are entitled to believe at least 3 conspiracy theories. I'm using mine for that one.
Okay. Hey, I'm gonna let you have it.
There's no hate like Christian love.
But it's crazy. It is so crazy. Oh, that's a picture. I'm looking at myself on screen, and I'm like, "What are these flowers back here?" I'm in a hotel, y'all. This is not me in my room, but that's a big picture. Okay.
And the Mexico comment, guys, this isn't just like some stuff that was happening only at the federal level. I mean, people were literally killing mayoral candidates. So I really need us to kind of walk it back and really like get what this is. This is not the level of political violence that other countries see. Not excusing what some of this rhetoric that's going on and how utterly insane some people are to believe they're cult leaders, but our elections by far outside of that 2000 one, I mean that one was kind of given in my opinion. But we do have free and fair elections, and I think a
I
lot.
was surprised that Claudia Scheinbaum made it to inauguration because I just knew somebody was going. Remember that other guy that was running, and they rolled up on him and shot him in the head, shot him dead.
They have been getting people up out of there in Mexico during this election cycle, and like we just don't have that level of political violence threatening.
Not yet. And I
Not
can't even say not yet because according to the Secret Service and FBI, there were attempts made
there's
unsuccessfully, allegedly.
allegedly. There's always attempts though. That's the thing. There's always going to be attempts. There's always these people where because we do not have adequate mental health care in this country, these people are just ticking time bombs, just waiting for the right rhetoric to sway them to do some political violence.
Mess. Well, all I know is the something has to be done because it's still early. We still have a week to go, and who's to say we may not drift and spiral into what we see across the world in other nations. We really just don't know. Hell, lest we forget an entire group of people tried to overthrow the government. If that's not akin to the shit that we see in other parts of the world, they tried to pull an insurrection and overthrow the government here. So I don't want us to have this whole old pious, holier than thou thought about ourselves over here. People attempted to overthrow the government because of this, because of the last election.
Hmm.
How is that different?
I think that the response that we should have gotten was right on on the side of the Democrats. I felt like more Republicans should have came out and said what it was, and they tried to do some "boys will be boys" BS. But I think that January the 6th was a wake up call for a lot of people, where it's not just politics anymore. This isn't just politics. These are people that are capable of violence if they feel slighted, if they do not have the desired outcome that they want. And I think that it is dangerous. But if you've been reading the FBI and the CIA reports, they said one of the biggest threats
It's
domestically is
domestic terrorists,
white terrorists.
white supremacist groups, and domestic terrorists. Absolutely.
So it's been a thing that I've been following. It's never been us.
Mhm.
But like whenever we're the perpetrator, we're all over the news. But when it's somebody else, it's different how they cover things. It is.
Mhm.
You can go shoot 30 people, and they're gonna take you to Burger King, get you, a double Whopper with cheese.
Mhm. So, speaking of the news and their fuck shit, we have to talk about the fact that major newspapers and outlets around the country are not doing um or not are not doing endorsements for presidents for the president as has been practiced for decades now, simply to um appease their Republican leaning owners. And we got the Washington Post,
This is
we
why.
got the LA Times, excuse me, and we got the USA Today.
Let me just say this: the most worrying thing that I've ever seen, that I think a lot of people were just asleep at the wheel for, is the massive amount of consolidation that we've allowed to occur with these media companies. The fact that most major newspapers in America are owned by a handful of companies, it's worrying to me because they want to talk about voices being silenced. The gatekeeper effect is very real now, which is why I think that there is so much, I would say, outright distrust from the younger generations and the establishment on both sides trying to get rid of TikTok. Because TikTok, it's unfiltered. It's things that I wouldn't have known had I been on TikTok. But the Washington Post, his op-ed to me made it worse. But the fact that over 200,000 people dropped that, within 24 hours of them announcing that decision, and then the fact that the editor-in-chief resigned. Like, people have to realize, like, that's a big deal. People are resigning. That's why I think a thing that people really need to focus on is the FTC. They have come out swinging against monopolies. I'm thinking
But
about
Congress never does anything because these conglomerates are in the pockets of Congress. So the FTC can come out screaming from the rooftops, but let me say this, FTC. First of all, let me give y'all a little bit because let's not forget in the late 90s, early 2000s, where there were deregulations put in place that allow for a lot of media to become monopolies. It started with radio, where you started to have all of the major radio stations started to be owned by, where there used to be independent radio companies, and they all started to be owned by two or three big conglomerates. And so all of the black stations were owned by this one company, and all of the country stations were owned by this one company. And now that could fatten their pockets because they owned certain record companies that, they would only play songs by certain people. That's why you saw certain people in the late 90s and early 2000s, you'd be like, well, why aren't they bigger? Well, it's because of that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But the point that I'm making is FCC. Some of this stuff you made on your own, and then it went to newspapers. And the reason that they let that happen with newspapers is because once the internet started to become much more popular in the early 2000s, that was a way to try to keep the newspapers viable and have these major companies fund the newspapers so that print media didn't go away. But then we slowly but surely started to see news outlets that were traditionally ones filled with journalistic integrity and didn't sway one way or another started to become very partisan. And then it went from print media to the news outlets on television. And it was all a slippery slope.
I people have to really look at um, it was something that the FCC had way back when, was the newspaper and broadcast cross ownership rule. If you had a newspaper, you weren't allowed to own broadcasting. You weren't allowed to. But the deregulation in the 90s, which is why I think one of the major failures of neoliberalism is, along with NAFTA, but we don't have to get into that right now, that allowed all of this consolidation. And everyone agrees, when left unchecked, capitalism will always turn into a monopoly situation because there will only be one left. So the reason why I like this FTC chair is because, I mean, a lot of people don't even know this. Google has been declared a monopoly. They are considering breaking them up. What, in your recollection, what was the last major company that the U.S. ever broke up?
Oh, what, you have to go back to the 80s, maybe?
Was AT&T the last one
That's what I'm thinking.
that
When the Southern Bell, remember there was Southwest Bell, Southern Bell,
the
all
baby
of those bells that all got turned into AT&T.
Verizon?
And they all, AT&T kind of, they made that big monopoly and they got rid of. That was one of the big ones that I remember. That was what, I forgot when that was. That was what, late 90s, I mean late 80s, early 90s, sometime around there.
Yeah, but that's the last one I believe that they did. Like, when they forced them to break up, they forced them to divest all of their local subsidiaries, but then deregulation happened, and then they were able to essentially, the baby bells are all media companies that we know now. And they don't own not only like broadcasting newspapers, but they also own the internet infrastructure as well. So you have so few companies controlling the information that you're able to get that I think that that's a huge threat to democracy. But people don't think of it in those terms.
Yeah. But like I said, remember that Newt Gingrich Congress of the late 90s
Trash.
really set the stage for a lot of the fuck shit that we got going on in the 21st century. I'm just going to be real honest with you. A lot of the Republican fuck shit and congressional stupid shit, that Newt Gingrich Congress really changed the game and the landscape of a lot of stuff. Um, but like I said, I'm not surprised about these owners, strong arming the entities that they own. I'm not surprised at all.
But you know, Jeff Bezos though, he's an egomaniac. He really does think that he's self-made, which is absolutely insane.
Well,
Everyone that's these billionaires now, they come from means. They do. They do. If your parents are giving you these small loans that could buy a house in most places in the country, you're not self-made. You have more resources because you born and you won the genetic lottery. You had rich parents. Congratulations. I don't get the worship that we have of billionaire status in America because I totally think that billionaires should not be a thing and we need to go back to the Eisenhower tax rates.
well, you speaking a little too much truth. These people don't like you to speak that kind of truth.
And then to Samira's point, like Mark Cuban he's so pro Vice President Harris, but he does not want to see Lena Khan continue to be the FTC chair. The fact that they're already the one click rule, if it's that easy for me to be able to sign up, it should be that easy for me to cancel. Oh, the gyms are already having a fit about that.
Hmm.
The gyms are having a fit about that. I think Lena Khan has been one of the best appointees of this Biden administration, to be quite frank.
I think well, we'll cross that bridge after.
Because
Hey,
she's coming for the big five. No one ever wants to go for the tech firms, but she has their foot on their neck. But I also think that we need to look at what other countries are doing, especially the EU. The EU is doing a lot of legislation that we're just now kind of coming around to because the old rules are changing.
Well, the EU, because smarter heads prevail over in the European Union.
I don't know if I agree with that.
In terms of some of these policies.
I think GDPR was great. I think it was great, but I can also acknowledge the fact that
It's oppressive.
the way that they've defined certain things,
GDPR is oppressive.
it specifically excludes certain European companies that would otherwise be subject to that scrutiny. It's
It's
protection.
oppressive.
It's protectionist. No, I think that we need data privacy laws similar to CCPA, GDPR. We do because every time there's a data breach, how many millions of Americans are impacted because they're allowed to collect so much data on you and sell it. And then they don't have to secure it at all. They just pay for, $2 million, a fine, and then they give you some credit monitoring for a year. But how much money have they made off you in the meantime when they had your data?
Mm.
I should be able to control my digital identity. If I don't want to be tracked, I should have that right.
Do you really think that in these yet to be United States that's ever going to be a thing? No, not in our lifetime.
You know what has to happen? The fine has to be more than the cost of doing business. until we start changing how we look at that, and I will say, when you said smarter heads prevailed in the EU, the reason I disagree with that is if Google, Apple does something that's illegal in the EU, they're talking about finding global revenue. No, you need to find the business unit that's housed in where you have jurisdiction. That's insane to me. I'm going to tax you on what you made everywhere else. Like, no, that's insane.
Well, that's well. Let's not get into the economic the economics of the EU because that's a whole nother show.
I wouldn't want to be on that panel.
Mm. Um. Well, listen, y'all. We're getting ready to get out of here. However, next week is the week. Next week is it,
Oh, that's our
and
watch party, my lord.
we will be here next week looking at results as they come in. I'm on the fence on what time I'm going to go live. I'm thinking 8. I'm thinking
I
8
think
may
that's
be
too
too
early.
early.
That's
I
too early.
think I may need to go live at like 9 Eastern,
When do they close the first polls?
7 o'clock.
Probably not. Give them time to count. Give them some time to do the advanced metrics. We know how many votes we need. Where I love the math that they do though when they're able to to forecast it. I love that.
Of course, I will do. I remember last election cycle, I had my earphones on one ear, I had my earbuds in another ear. I had, I had several different things going on.
Yeah.
I'll try to not do that this year, but I'll have sources of truth that I am watching.
Watching one source on the feed. We can follow up with others as necessary.
But I'll be looking at certain. I have certain websites that are my sources of truth that I trust. Um,
Oh yeah, election day. They know I ain't doing no work. I'm
so
going to
I'm going to be
and then I'm
my
going to be
my
drinking.
plan is to stay live until about 2 a.m.
Oh, I can't give you that, but you know what?
1 or 2
I'll be
a.m.
supporting in the chat.
1 or 2 a.m. is I could see myself being up, but who knows? I
I'm
will be honest with you.
you and your gal don't really go to sleep. You night walkers.
Whatever. I don't expect us to have a decision that night at all.
I don't think so either.
I think we'll be. I don't see us having a decision
I would
before
love for the VP to hit 270 and I can go to bed by 11 o'clock. I don't
you're
foresee
wishing on a star.
that. I know. Like I feel like we have a very crappy election system.
So, but hey, we gonna be here regardless. Just like we were here, we made it through all of this other stuff, and we'll listen.
That
We'll be here.
presidential debate was terrible, though. I'm sorry. That was so horrible. I'm just like, we need to normalize serious candidates versus useful idiots.
Mm,
I think we'll know within 48 hours. I don't think it's going to take them that long to call it.
I think it'll take to the weekend.
We'll know within 48 hours. Now, there's going to be some lawsuits. They don't want to certify. We're going to have all that, but like officially, like 48 hours. It don't take that long.
They're saying
I don't like
Arizona.
Virginia
They're
is
already preparing you for Arizona taking a long time because they say their ballot is exceptionally long. So it's going to take people longer on election day to actually
to
vote.
tabulate. Yeah.
Right. Well, to actually vote first, then to tabulate. Because if you remember Arizona, I believe it was Arizona in the 2022 elections, where they had to keep the polls open for like 2 extra hours because they kept running out of ballots in certain areas and people were in line and it was a mess. It was a mess.
I just don't understand. Like even in Minnesota, I'm just like, why am I using a Scantron? Like, what? I'm not in school. What? Make sure you use a number 2 pencil. Why do we not have something that's a little bit better than this? Why can I not scan a QR code that's unique to me and vote? So we can wrap this up. When the polls close, we should have everything.
I'm thinking we won't know until the weekend.
I ain't
Speaking of
got-
which, the weekend after election,
I
I'll be
think
in
that we
Baltimore.
really have to realize the stock market does not like uncertainty. They need to get this thing out.
I will be in Baltimore the weekend after the election, that Friday through Sunday. So
Alabama's back ass was though here. We're not surprised by anything. They still think they're in the antebellum South. So I'm sorry. I could not have been born in a worse state. Like y'all could have sent y'all anywhere else.
but either way, we will be here, y'all. For y'all, we will make sure that we are giving you up to date, credible source. And let me say this too before we get out of here. Next week, y'all gonna see some of everybody who is anybody that don't know a goddamn thing about politics, elections, processes, electoral. They're gonna be up here having lives, watch parties, trying to get a click and a view, not really having a fucking clue of what's going on here. Don't go chasing waterfalls, people. Stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. Stay with your boy and us here. We know what we're doing. We will be measured. We will be accurate. And we're not going to blow no smoke up your ass.
My ballot is long as hell too.
Your what is long?
The
Come
ballot.
again?
I'm looking at the sample ballot.
Come again? What's the long?
The ballot.
Oh, that's what you're calling it now?
No, I mean I'm actually looking at the sample ballot for Tuesday's election. I would recommend everyone look at your sample ballot.
Y'all know I told y'all where to go. Ballot Pete. Let me put the link in the chat.
So
Look at your ballot.
I'm not going to tell
Because
you not to watch Tasha K, but I mean, are we watching it for entertainment purposes? Because that's what people watch Fox News for.
here's where you go as your source of truth. So I shouldn't watch Tasha K. No, Ronald.
We also have a constitutional amendment, but I've heard next to nothing about this amendment.
Does it really look a lot different, y'all? On you, I'm not watching it on YouTube. I'm not watching it on YouTube.
I
Let me
like the
see.
virtual backgrounds better on this new platform. It's given depth.
Hold on. Let's see. Because I can't see.
Nobody's running against anybody on the Supreme Court. Like it's just they're uncontested.
Okay, it does look better. Why can't I see the chat though? Oh, there's the chat. Okay. Okay. So if you go to ballotpedia.com, I did a class on, or I did a live, I should say, on how to go in there, check your ballot. They'll actually tell you what a yes or a no on some of those ballot measures mean so that you're not confused. We went through all of that. So please go to Ballotpedia and look at a sample ballot. Please. Please. And just to give you a real quick, because me and Kamz is tired, real
Tied.
tired. We about
TIE.
out of here. Tired, red, and fatigue. Okay. Now, if you go, I'm just gonna put a random address in Miami. Okay.
See, these ballots, I think they're also deliberately written to be confusing too.
All right, let's go. 545 Northwest 42nd Street in Miami, Florida. All right. View ballot. Everybody see this? Can y'all see this? No, y'all can't see
No,
shit. Hold
we
on.
can't see
Goddamn.
it.
I'm not even sharing the goddamn screen. You could have seen it on Kamz.
I'm sorry, I was following along on Ballotpedia.
All right. So let me share my screen. Stupid L Teddy. All right. No, we want this. All right. Let me remove this. All right. There we go. So when you go to Ballotpedia, this is the where I told you to go. See right here, biggest day, sample ballot lookup tool. I'm gonna put the address I told y'all, 545 Northwest 42nd Street. I'm gonna just put Fort Lauderdale, okay? Let's say I was in Fort Lauderdale, right? View my ballot. If that's my address, I'm gonna view the ballot. I click there. Welcome to your sample ballot. Currently, we have data indicating your ballot will contain 7 candidate races and 6 ballot measures. So it's going to tell you exactly how many it is. Completing the sample ballot could take as little as 7 minutes or as long as 26 minutes, depending on how much of the provided information you decide to review and study. It's giving you a ton of information. Concise or detailed. Right now, we're going to go with concise, right? So when I go with concise, it's going to give me the ballot measures first, right? So I click ballot measure. One, Florida Amendment 1, partisan school board elections. Yes, no summaries. Let me make this smaller so more of it can fit on the screen. All right. So for it tells me a yes vote supports making school boards elections partisan beginning in November 2026. A no vote opposes it. It gives you all of that information. It then shows you what the ballot question is, who supports it, who doesn't, the opposition. All it gives you a ton of information. Okay, ton of information. It simplifies it for you. Okay, there, so you can go through all of the ballot measures. Then you'll see President of the United States, and you'll see all of the people that's running on your ballot for president. U.S. Senate, all of those people running. Okay. In this case, U.S. Congress, all of those people running. Same thing with the state elections, Florida Supreme Court, all of that. All right. So go there. You can look at your ballot. You can see what it looks like, and that way, and start to do your homework so that you are informed. If you are voting by mail-in or absentee ballot, you that would be a great tool to have. Have that on screen, kind of get what the yes no means as you're voting for each of those ballot measures, and then start to go to some of your other sources of truth. NAACP within your respective areas do a really good job of giving you ways to vote for different, not just the elections of officials, but a lot of the ballot measures. They will give you a great. They have usually cheat sheets on your local NAACP websites for that. So rank voting is great. Okay, we'll go there as well. See what they are looking at. I'm not familiar with that site, Mara, so you may have just showed us a new one. What's the website? Is it rankvoting.com?
I thought that just rank voting in and of itself
Oh,
is.
I thought she was suggesting a specific site. Oh, okay.
We do rank voting here for some things.
Okay.
You gotta know a lot more about the candidates for rank voting though, but I do like it.
But that's what we got. Listen, y'all. Kev, do you have anything for the people before we get out of here?
Please research who these folks are locally, because I've been doing some additional due diligence because some people's websites were blank. They had none of their policy positions. So I went down a rabbit hole. Some of these people are crazy running on for the school board. Please think about the children and their ability to read, because some of these people are unhinged. That's all I got.
Okay.
And you?
Like I said, be informed, vote, be an informed voter, and once you figure it out, help out your relatives and friends. If you want, make a cheat sheet for your people, because many of our people don't know who or what to vote for. So be an informed voter and help out those people who you are aligned with.
There's also voters guide. I don't know if you heard that. Like it's guides.vote or
Hmm.
something like that. It's a nonpartisan look at candidates, and there's some state voters guides on there as well.
Can you put the link in the chat?
I can.
I'm sorry, y'all. My camera may not be in the best 1080p, and that's because I'm not at home in my studio on my webcam, which goes in 4K. I'm on my laptop webcam, which is trash. Laptop webcams are trash. They're fucking trash. Okay, you put it in the. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, I can.
I forgot. That was one of the things we learned that I have to figure out how to.
But you can share with the peoples.
I am. I have to figure out how to put stuff. Um, how to get my people to.
Georgia and Florida have voters guides.
So that's the link there, y'all.
There's some really good ones for the Senate. If you're in one of those states where it's going to be competitive, it breaks it down in, to me, more commonsensical terms. It gives you the highlights that you're gonna care about.
So there you go. There's some voting guides and cheat sheets for you there as well. Just trying to make sure everybody's informed. We like to make sure that you all have the right information. Whatever, Harold. So
Well, I'm worried about the great state of Florida because y'all don't need Trick Scott.
we don't. I'd love for Trick Scott to get ousted. Him and Rafael Cruz. Anyway, we about to get out of here for real, y'all. For real, y'all. This time, because we is tired and we've been up here longer than we thought. We said we're gonna give y'all a good hour
Get
and
out.
get out of here, and it's been an hour and a half.
I'm exhausted
Mm,
and I'm hungry. I haven't eaten today.
I might call somebody to come and lay up with me. Whatever. Don't judge me. You don't know my pain. You don't know what I've been through.
My virgin ears shouldn't be hearing this.
Mm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 12 of Red, Blue, and Black. As we say around these parts, whether the country is red or blue, we will always be black.
Blake!
Black. We about to get out of here, y'all. We will be here next week. We looking forward to it. Let's do it. Everybody get out. Make sure you exercise your right. Take 5 other people with you. Let's make this happen. Bye, y'all. Thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safely.